people who are commenting on the post of the creator where he was talking about the product messaged the CEO of the company we were working with to say, oh, if you would like LinkedIn engagement farming as well, let us know here. So they were trying to sell their LinkedIn farming services to the brand as well.
Welcome to the channel. Today we have our first guest, Max Nimmo, founder of CreatorWorks, an agency helping B2B SaaS and AI companies grow through creator-led marketing. Max comes with years of experience working across gaming influencer campaigns and with performance-driven D2C brands. And now he's bringing that playbook to the world of B2B. In this episode, we cover everything from how to measure ROI when attribution is broken to why LinkedIn engagement pods are more widespread than what you might have thought, and how B2B companies can use Instagram and TikTok in their strategy. Whether you're just getting started with influencer marketing or looking to sharpen your strategy, this conversation is packed with actionable insights. So let's get started. Another thing that I wanted to talk about with you was, I see the biggest B2B brands, AI brands, and they're partnering with creators, and what I see under those posts is absolute BS AI generated comments.
Yeah.
I was wondering, do brands know that LinkedIn engagement pods exist, or are they completely naive and clueless about it? What do you think?
So I've been thinking the same thing. I've seen some creators on LinkedIn who have 50, 100,000 followers plus, working with 5 to 10 of the biggest companies in their space, right? And they're continuing to work on these partnerships. Like every single month, they're doing a partnership post about this launch and a partnership post about this product. But when you look at their comments, it's so obviously like all these people in some other country engaging with them. Yeah. And so I was actually fascinated by like how much engagement are they actually paying for? I know for sure there's partnership pods. I've joined WhatsApp chats and Slack groups where people are in there organizing different engagement pods, and I'm trying to grow my following on LinkedIn, or there's tools on X where people are promoting partnership engagement pods there. So I was actually interested in figuring out like how much engagement are these people actually farming. So on a campaign that we were doing recently, we allocated a test budget. So usually what we do is 10 to 20% of the budget for a campaign we'll allocate towards testing different things. Okay. And with the client, we were both interested in figuring out like how much are these people actually farming engagement. Yeah. So we intentionally reached out to one of these creators who we suspected was farming engagement, right? So they were doing these posts where everything kind of looked the same and everyone was commenting on the same thing, and like they were getting what looked like really good engagement, hundreds of likes and lots of comments, but then on the back end it didn't look like much was going to be happening. So we were interested in figuring out what was actually happening there. So we partnered with a creator to work with on just one post, like a small amount of the budget, a few $100s, and we wanted to see like what was actually happening on the back end. We wanted to see what was happening. And every LinkedIn partnership that we do, in the contract we have a few like key things to make sure that we're able to actually like look at the analytics after and make sure that what we're paying for is what we're getting. Yeah. So the first thing is obviously the best way to track analytics on LinkedIn now is you can download a CSV of basically every post that you work on, and it gives you the full demographic. It gives you the impressions, members reached, engagement for every single post. Yeah. So as a part of getting the analytics from creators, we get them to send the CSV across, which is great. Like if we're working with really high quality creators with awesome audiences who post really good content, it's going to come back and it's going to say, oh, we reached like a 55% marketing audience in like these perfect regions of these perfect companies, right? And it's like it's good news. Yeah. But in other cases, that's not sure. The news. So that's the first thing we have, and the second thing we have is that there's a particular clause in our contract, which is it's sad that we have to include this, but on LinkedIn we have to make sure that the results from content in terms of impressions and engagement are genuine, right? So we have an authenticity clause in the contract which makes sure that they're agreeing by signing the contract that all the performance of their content is authentic. So clearly we worked with this creator, we got the post back, and like to none of our surprise, we got the analytics back, and it wasn't what we were hoping for. It was like 80% of the audience was from a country that creator wasn't even based in, that we were working with from all these kind of countries in other parts of the world, where you always see these comments coming in on LinkedIn, right? And not just that, but we actually had the people who were commenting on the post of the creator where he was talking about the product, then went and messaged the CEO of the company we were working with to say, oh, if you would like LinkedIn engagement farming as well, let us know here. So they were trying to sell their LinkedIn farming services to the brand as well. So they're relentless, right? But it was pretty clear. We had 5 people reach out to the CEO of the company saying, if you would like LinkedIn engagement farming services as well, let us know. So all we had to do was like send these screenshots of these LinkedIn conversations to the creator. We just kind of like sent him a nice message saying, oh, we've received these messages from people who commented on your post. Would you happen to know anything about that? Obviously, he denied it, but very, very quickly kind of refunded the payment, and we didn't work with him again. But I still see him working with him or her, sorry. I still see them working with loads of other brands every single month. And this is where it comes back to like, do these brands even care? They must know when they're seeing the back-end performance and the analytics and the reporting of the content that they're working with creators on, they must know that this is happening, right? But maybe they just care about that top line impressions number so they can report it to their CMO or their founder,
I think they
right?
have given up on attribution.
Yeah.
Because you can't track leads, especially when you're such a big company, you have such high branded search coming through Search Console. So actually tracking conversions through particular influencer is kind of kind of impossible, I would say, today. I mean, it's not impossible, but you build your attribution models, you do all that work, but why would you want to do it?
Well, LinkedIn is very, very close to being a zero-click platform. So almost no clicks come through LinkedIn. If you look at engagement rates on LinkedIn versus other platforms, everyone is a lurker on LinkedIn. I'm sure you do it and I do it, right? And the content that we see, and we recognize people on LinkedIn, we've never engaged with their posts, we've never commented, we've never liked, but we recognize it, right? So LinkedIn is as close as it gets to a zero-click platform. So maybe they're optimizing just for top-level engagement, impressions. Maybe they're just optimizing for top-level impressions. So their theory is that the more people they can reach, maybe it's going to generate more leads because they're not going to see clicks through the platform anyway. But what we do with kind of like the back-end data once we've collected those analytics from the creators, we actually look at how many impressions are reaching the ICP, right? So through LinkedIn, we can look at not just what industry are the impressions from, not the size of the company, the region, the role. And we really define like through the ICP of the company that we're working with, how many impressions are reaching their targeted audience. So for certain cases, we want to reach marketing and advertising professionals who are founders, CEOs, CMOs, or kind of like director C-suite level people at companies with between 11 and 200 employees working in the US and UK. And through LinkedIn Analytics, you can do that. We can go through all the creators. We can see, okay, we generated 10,000 impressions, but only 40 of those impressions were to our ICP. But of those 40 impressions, like 10 were to CEOs of the companies that we want to reach. And then that's where we can layer in things like retargeting through ads, or we can run an outbound motion to these kind of like warmer leads, and we see that reply rates to outbound once people have seen creator content and then they've engaged there goes from 2% to 20%. So we're getting much stronger reply rates.
Many companies today are deciding to go for creators, but there is a lot of skepticism coming from big B2B brands or mid-sized B2B. And what they want, the answer is, what is the ROI? Because what happens typically is the influencer marketer has to justify their ROI to the marketing director or marketing manager, and attribution itself being such a big mess in influencer marketing.
Yeah, sure.
So how do you actually measure ROI in influencer marketing? Do I look at conversion? Do I look at impressions? Do I look at leads? What do I look at?
It's a really tricky question. I don't think there's a perfect solution yet. People have tried. I've worked a lot on MMM models where we try and model the impact of influencers and creators as a channel in the context of all the channels that a company is running. And something really interesting that we found there was that 80% of the impact of influencers and creators were indirect. So if we're tracking solely through link clicks and UTM codes and click this link and use my discount code for 20% off, right? We're missing 80% of the impact there. And I think in some cases it's going to be even more, right? So if we're working with a SaaS company or a B2B product where the sales cycle is a lot longer and people take 6 months, 12 months to go through the awareness to consideration to then conversion cycle, they're not going to remember a discount code they saw 12 months ago, and it's going to be very, very hard to attribute that conversion or that sale with a creator that they saw 12 months ago. So there's a few things which you can do, which together they paint a better picture, but it's not a perfect solution. So something that we look at a lot is kind of time-based correlation. So if we increase the activity with creators or influencers on LinkedIn, for example, across a certain period, what impact is that having on website?
Lead pipeline.
Exactly, yeah. What impact is that having on leads going to the website? What about organic search? What impact is that having there? Are people searching for more key terms that we're relevant with? Are people going to our LinkedIn profile and our Instagram? So that's the first thing we can look at. The second thing is obviously combining in UTM links and discount codes and kind of layering in that there. What I've seen some people do, which is an interesting idea in the D2C world, which we can start applying to B2B, is basically over time, the more and more you work with creators and influencers, you start to get like a really good idea of, okay, this is generally like a 1.5x what it says on the spreadsheet, right? So you can start to develop like a multiplier of, okay, if we have this result, then we know in general this is how many leads it's driving. But there is no kind of like perfect solution. Post purchase surveys are great as well. Like people, when they're right in the moment about to buy something, and then they can remember where they saw it, who they saw it, whether it was on LinkedIn, whether it was from a Favikon employee, for example, they can put that in the post purchase survey. But combining all these things together is probably the best thing to do. If we continue in the same vein that we've been doing for the last 5, 10, 15 years in B2B, marketing where we try and start a webinar and we try and make white papers and we try and optimize for SEO. People just aren't interested in that anymore. No one's opening your emails, no one's reading your content, no one's reaching out. And the reason is it's because people don't care about the product, but they care about the solution that's being sold, right?
Yeah.
And so having trusted creators who these people are going out of their way to consume the content, they're scrolling on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and these are the people that they want to see. Having your product integrated into that content through the voice of someone that they care to listen to is the most powerful way you can do that.
So if attribution is broken in a channel, right? Influencer marketing now, ads, paid media, it's simpler, right? Because you have almost very clean attribution. So you can treat it as a growth channel where you just pump in more money and you get more results. But influencer, I found two, bottlenecks into treating influencer itself as a growth channel. I figured out the best creator. I found that he got me results. Now the question is, working a second post with them, third piece of content, fourth, where do I stop? At what point the returns are become very marginal and I stop to treat it as a growth channel? If the particular creator's audience is already exposed to my product, why do I need to make another post?
I think there's two things that we look at when we're assessing whether we should keep working with a creator, right? So the first thing is obviously their performance in the context of their own usual performance. So before we start any campaign, we're going to put together some benchmarks of what do we generally expect that this creator will do for us, right? So we'll look at their previous content. We'll look at, on LinkedIn, it's very difficult with impression data not being public, but we look at engagement data, and we have some formulas there around this, figuring out kind of generally how much traffic is going to be generated from certain levels of engagement. But on Instagram and things like that, it's a lot easier to go through, especially with tools like Favikon, and basically see like, okay, this is what we can expect from a creator. This is what their previous like paid partnerships have performed. And so we'll benchmark it there. So the first thing we do is benchmark against the performance we expect for them. The second thing is, once you've actually like done those first 1, 2, 3 posts with a group of creators, then benchmarking their performance against each other, right? So we don't tell them this, but for the most part, we're treating it like Hunger Games, right? Like, so we're getting all the creators to fight it out against each other. And then essentially what usually happens with everything great in life is like Pareto's principle, right? Like 20% will drive 80% of the results. So typically we'll find that 20% of creators will be driving 80% of the impact. Recently we worked on a campaign with a marketing tech company, and we had this one post which drove almost all of the traffic across all the campaign. So we were working with a group of 8 creators. And one creator we found was like super niche, super specific to this particular industry in kind of like paid growth ads for D2C brands. And we found that this one style of post with this one style of creator worked super well. So after the first 2 months of activity, now we're doubling down on that, and we're finding basically lookalikes for this creator across different audiences, right? So we're using Favikon to basically go in, put this creator into Favikon and look at, okay, what other creators do we have in a similar region or kind of like complementary regions who are kind of like a similar audience demographic, who talk about similar styles of content. And so that's kind of how we assess and double down after those first creators go live. Over the time, over 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, you're optimizing, you're refining, you're working out what creative niches are working best, what content styles are best, and you basically just try and collect as much data as possible. As boring as it is, a lot of things in marketing, regardless of how creative and interesting and cool we think you are, come down to data collection, right? So the more data we have on creators and content styles and platforms, the better we can optimize and refine basically the strategy going forward.
Okay. Now, we are also going to launch certain features at Favikon. Now we are battling with this choice. Whether do we go for these, Twitter AI creators who create hype, who say Favikon broke the market? Do we go for this approach? Or do we go for thought leaders who have been working deeply in the industry? We go with influencer marketers.
I think within B2B SaaS and AI products, there's such a big range of companies and customers in the space, right? So you can go from freemium tier entry level products where you're marketing to entrepreneurs, and it's kind of almost like a prosumer product. It's not necessarily for businesses. And then you go to the other complete end, and you're selling to enterprise clients with massive market caps, and it takes 12 months to go through their legal and compliance team, right? So there's no one size fits all. I think it's a great place to start. So a company like Favikon, right, which already has tons of users, tons of like massive advocates, the best place to start is with your own customers. So looking at what customers are already talking about Favikon, what partners can you engage, who's talking about similar products or kind of like solving similar solutions, that you can also engage them, and working on like a big scale with these people who are already kind of authentic advocates. They understand the product and their reviews are genuine. But a lot of companies don't have the luxury of having like this massive audience base, so they need to try and figure out, okay, how do we find the right creators and influencers to work with for a campaign? And so what we use is the ICP to ICP framework, where we go from the ideal customer profile to the ideal creator profile. Okay. And it's very hard to find out who your ideal creator is if you don't know your customer, right? Yeah. So the whole point is that we want to work with creators who already have the trust and attention of our customers. So the first thing to do is really nail down our ICP in terms of the customer. So where are they spending their time? What content do they consume? Who are they following? And then once we have a really good idea and we can map that out, then we want to look at, okay, what creators are living in that content or living in the feeds of the customers that we want to reach. Yeah. And so the best way to reach them is through the people that are already consuming. So this is where we look at from the ideal customer, we go to the ideal creator, and then we build out kind of like a persona of the ideal creator. Maybe there's one, maybe there's two, maybe there's three different personas. Yeah. Maybe we want to work with influencer marketing agency founders for Favikon, or maybe we want to work with B2B in-house brand marketers, and so we have like these different pillars in there. Or say we also want to work with Favikon as featured for creators, right? Like, so say we want to work with LinkedIn creators, so we have like these different pillars that we can work with creators on there. And then the best thing to do is really test and refine it.
Maybe a good metric that you can look at when judging a channel for B2B marketing, I feel, is the attention span. Higher the attention span, better the results, better the conversion of your ICP. How much of it is true, how much of it is false, I'm not sure. If you have tested, let me know your opinion on this. B2B SaaS, AI SaaS, going on Instagram and TikTok creators.
I think there's definitely a place for B2B marketing on platforms outside of LinkedIn, but you have to be very, very careful in the way you do it, right? So if there's a few things that we want to consider, right, like to figure out what the best channel is for us. If we really want to reach as many eyeballs as possible in the most efficient way possible through certain amounts of ad creative or creators or pieces of content, right, then Meta is the most powerful advertising platform in the world. There's never been anything like where you can put $1 in and pump $3 out the other side and make it so predictable. So if we really want to optimize for just getting in front of as many people as possible and kind of like in the most efficient way, then Meta is the best way to do that. I'm sure in 2 years' time, we're going to be able to advertise to a particular person with a particular name on a particular street in a particular country, right? Like it's getting unbelievably accurate. And you have these conversations where you're like, oh, I didn't even realize I was talking about this, or I searched about it, and then you see it pop up on your Instagram as an ad, right? So I think there's definitely a place for that. I think it really depends on the type of product that you have and the other channels you're running. So if you are a beta prosumer kind of product, so say for example, good examples of this are Granola and Fixer, who do a lot of Instagram creator partnerships. They do a lot of partnership ads on Meta, and this is probably the best way you can go about it. So partnership ads on Meta almost always perform 20 to 30% better than branded assets on Meta. And we're seeing a very similar thing on LinkedIn at the moment with thought leader ads. So if you're going to have any sort of B2B strategy on Meta, layering creators into it is basically like a necessity. So getting that flywheel going. So we work with creators on organic content. They perform really well, and then we amplify that top organic content through paid. So we run partnership ads through their account on Meta. We test, we iterate, and then we figure out like, oh, this messaging really worked well with this creator, or this messaging wasn't so great. And then we're able to go around in the next round of amends, update the brand messaging, update the messaging on LinkedIn, and then go through the next cycle there. I think Instagram is great if we want to reach that audience, but if we're targeting an enterprise level solution, for example, or enterprise companies, then it needs to be part of like a bigger strategy as a whole. So if we're the goal with these type of companies, you said like 6 to 12 month sales cycles, we want to generate as many high value touch points as possible along that buying journey, right? So if they see their colleague post about it on LinkedIn, or they see someone they trust in their industry post on a newsletter, and then they listen to a podcast and they hear someone talk about it. And then they're on Instagram at 10:30 at night doom scrolling around, they see another ad for a product they've seen 3 times already today, then it's going to start generating that kind of like consideration in their mind. Oh, like I should check this out, I should give it a go. But in terms of if we want to just like go to Meta and TikTok for the only channel where we want to generate like high quality business and leads in B2B, I think it needs to be part of like a bigger strategy as a whole, which is why I think starting on a channel like LinkedIn or YouTube and building out an always on creator program there where we're able to generate trust distribution over time consistently is great. And then once we find the creators who are really driving impact, then kind of like diversifying across other channels and having this like full funnel impact across everything is a really strong way to do it.
Okay. So I was wondering that, there are so many AI tools coming in, and they say that they'll automate influencer marketing for you. Do you think, are we there yet? Like, are they creating any value for you, these AI tools, or it's just a trend, it's just a fad?
Mm-hmm. I think this is the thing that everyone's trying to figure out right now, is how do you automate influencer marketing? influencer marketing has always been like the most admin heavy marketing channel out there. Whether you're running like Meta ad campaigns or Google campaigns or anything else like an outbound motion, there's so many good tools in there that you can help automate that process. But influencer marketing has always been, and always probably will be, one of the most admin heavy. You've got things like influencer outreach and negotiations and organizing deliverables and contracts and all these different parts of the campaign. And it's very, very difficult to find one perfect solution to everything. Like me, myself, and other agencies I speak to and other influencer marketers, everyone is in a Google Sheet or an Excel document and have these crazy amounts of thousands of rows with different creators in there. So everyone's trying to find this one solution. There's lots of startups who can promise that they manage end-to-end influencer marketing with kind of AI agents, and I think there is a use case for them there. But at its core, influencer marketing and creator-led growth for B2B companies is about the relationships you have with the influencers, right? It's all about building a partnership and turning that into kind of like a mutually beneficial relationship between the brand and the creator. But having said that, there is a role that AI can play, right? So what we do a lot of is, and what we've always done is building in the back end basically our own systems of automations and AI agents which help us do kind of tasks that we find we're repeating a lot. So anything which I find myself repeating a lot day to day or week to week is something that we try and automate. So for example, recently, contracts. We're working with 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 creators on a campaign, right? And for the most part, these contracts are the exact same thing. We change the deliverables, we change the name, we change a few different criteria in there, but that's about it. And so what we're able to do with tools like Zapier is link it up to all the different software that we use. So we link it up to DocuSign, we link it up to our Google Sheets. And what we're able to do is pull the information from the Google Sheet about the creator, also fill in the template for the contract and send it off. Similar thing with collecting analytics. One of the biggest pains that influencer marketers face is nagging creators for screenshots, right? So everyone is sending all these emails after 48 hours, 7 days, 14 days, 30 days to influencers saying, please send your screenshots, we need to know how well it went, or they're trying to scrape the data through other tools. And we've done a very similar thing, particularly on LinkedIn, where it's very, very hard to figure out the back-end data for creators. You need the screenshots or the CSV file from creators. So what we've been able to do is we have an automation with Zapier where we have a dedicated inbox called Analytics, right? And this Analytics email agent reaches out to the creators after a certain amount of time and asks for them to send the analytics. Then because the CSV of the analytics on LinkedIn is always in the same format, we have them submit that through a Typeform and a Dropbox link, and they can submit the analytics of the CSV to us. Then we have an AI agent look through the CSV that they've submitted, and because it's always in the same format, it's very easy for it to pull in the data that we're looking for. So then from that data that they've submitted to us, we're able to then update our spreadsheet with the reporting, the timelines, and say that we've collected the analytics there. So this is a task that usually would take 5, 10, 15 minutes per go, but when you're working with 50 creators, that ends up being like someone's full-time job. It's just chasing creators for analytics, right?
Even at working with B2B creators, even if you're at like 10 creators or 5 creators a month, it's a full-time job.
Yeah, definitely. I think in terms of paid partnerships, I've seen some people say that one full-time employee can manage 50 paid creative partnerships at a time. And I think they must be like some unbelievable marketer, right? Being able to do that.
I'm doing that, I can't. What are the tools, including Favikon, that you use, like 5 tools or maybe 3 tools if they're out there, without which you think you would not be able to do influencer marketing as a growth channel, as a channel that you can scale very fast without these 3 tools, which are kind of indispensable for you?
What I've found is that some of the best tools for creator-led growth aren't creator tools at all, right? It's just generic GTM tech, which has figured out this very specific thing that they're good at and then applying that to creators. So a lot of what we do is very comparable to outreach, right? We're reaching out to people, we're coming to them with a deal or an opportunity, and we're hoping that they agree to it, right? So it's very similar to outbound motions or GTM in some ways, but obviously certain things are different, right? With creators, we're hoping for a 40-50% response rate at times, where we're trying to build this like mutually beneficial relationship with them, whereas with sales and GTM, it's a very different relationship there. So what I found in terms of influencer outreach is Instantly is the tool that I always use, right? You can really layer in like lots of campaigns, different inboxes, and you can add a certain level of personalization there. For the most part as well, for the first outreach that we send to influencers is very, very, very basic. You've seen people draft these massive, crazy essays.
I saw you live in London, and then nobody cares.
It's crazy AI personal. Everyone knows it's AI. No one's going to send an email like that. So all we try and do with this first email that we send to creators is basically just like get an opt-in. So we see 40 to 60% reply rates, and a lot of it depends actually on the brand equity, right? So if someone recognizes a brand, if you're working with Apple and you send an email to a tech creator, they're going to know who you are and they're going to want to work with you for the most part. So between 40 and 60% is generally what we see working with kind of like mid-range B2B SaaS products and AI startups. If you're very well known, maybe above that. If you're very new, then maybe below that. But this first email is literally just getting them to opt in. We say, this is who we are, this is what we're doing, we liked your content, would you be interested in a partnership, something along those lines. Then once we have the opt-in, then we know, okay, let's spend some time building a relationship with this person, let's see what they're interested in, let's see what the partnership could look like, let's see what the deliverables and the rates are going to be. But not sending these massive, crazy emails up front is not necessary. So Instantly does a very, very good job for that. In terms of building out the systems in the back end, Zapier is what I've always turned to. There's Zapier, there's Make, there's Lindy, there's N8N for the technical people, but I couldn't get my head around it. But Zapier is what I always turn to. It's very simple, it's very intuitive, and you can link up literally everything you need. I don't know how many integrations they have now, it's thousands, but if you're using Google Sheets, Excel, Gmail, Outlook, any other platform, right, like they're gonna have a Zapier integration. So any task that you find yourself repeating like more than once a day, you have to try and automate that. So Zapier is great for that. And then in terms of that, that's like the main bulk. So we have the influencer outreach with Instantly. We do the discovery with Favikon. We do the linking up everything in the back end with Zapier. And then there's a few good options as well for managing creator payments, which we're looking at the moment. We don't actually work with names at the moment, but I've seen like very, very good solutions. Companies like GigaPay, for example, are great, where they're managing lots of contracts and creator payments. And one of the biggest issues that brands and agencies have when working with creators is cash flow, right? And it matters, right? If you have a net 7-day payment term with a creator and you don't hit that, it's going to ruin that relationship going forward. So if you're able to pay creators on time, and if more preferably like early, if you can pay them as soon as that deliverable goes live, and you can build a really good relationship with them there, then it's one of the most underrated ways to build strong relationships with creators, just pay them on time. So looking at a few tools like that at the moment, but it's one of like the most manual admin heavy tasks. So that's definitely something we should look to automate.
So multiple schools of thought here. One is the CPM guys, as I mentioned. They see influencer marketing as, the CPM idea also comes from, the earlier paid channels like Google Ads and Meta and all that. And I have my own concerns and reservations about the CPM method of influencer pricing. Do you think it's a good idea to standardize influencer pricing by CPM method? Because you have an agency and then you're working with creators in and out every day. Is that something that helps you, or do you think that the CPM method itself is varies so much? Like it could be $100, it could be $30 for a creator. Do you think it's worth the effort to quote your price based on CPM? Especially for brands who are not working with agencies and who are just getting to getting started with influencer marketing. What is a good way to approach influencer pricing for them?
CPM pricing is easy to understand and easy to do, but in B2B it doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
So in B2B, a lot of the times you're going to see $50, $60, $70 CPMs on LinkedIn ads. On Meta, you're going to see 30, 40, right? It depends on your product, it depends on the audience, but generally we can look in those ranges. And the whole point of working with creators is that we're working with creators who already have an audience that trusts and knows them and cares about their content and is going to listen to them. So we're not just paying for the same impressions we would get through a LinkedIn ad. We're paying for the 5, 10, 15 years that they've spent in their career, building their audience, creating content. We're paying for all these different parts. So if you're working with a video editor, you pay them for creating the video. If you're working with a producer, you're working for producer content. With a creator, you have all of these things wrapped up into one. So pricing just off CPM completely undervalues all the creative process that goes into creating the content as well. Well, if you're working with creators, then in theory, you should hope to see an improvement in your performance metrics in ads. So if we're comparing apple for apple, right, and we're comparing the CPM of creators to the CPM of ads, it's not comparable because they're a different vehicle. But if we're looking at creators as something which is powering our ad performance, we're working with creators for 6 months, and then across that 6 months, we're seeing lowering CPLs and CPAs on our Meta and LinkedIn ads. We're seeing better click-through rates because people recognize us from the creator content. We're then using the creator content in the ad and we're running it as a thought leader ad on LinkedIn or a partnership ad on Meta, right? And then we're seeing everything drop by 20% to 30%, and we're seeing massive performances there. So if we're just comparing CPM versus CPM, it's not a fair comparison and it's not how the channel should be measured. But if we're then using it as kind of like a full funnel approach and we're laying in creators and paid media and other channels there, we should be seeing like the halo effect across everything.
Okay. When you work with creators, do brands approach you for affiliate model, and what are the creators' expectations? Are they willing to do it or are they not?
Pay-per-performance models are the most attractive model for a brand, right? Because you shift all of the risk of the campaign onto the creator.
Creators, yeah.
But creators aren't stupid; they know this, right? So then all of the risk and the leverage is on them. So brands are very, very keen to build out these always-on creator programs where they pay per performance or off CPM basis or cost per leads. But if you're running B2B campaigns on LinkedIn, YouTube, Meta, like you're not going to be able to attribute each lead to each creator very neatly. So by the creator working on a deal like this, it's not usually beneficial to them. Something that we can see work, and I think like maybe where we're going is if we can find a metric where both the creator and the brand can agree that this is like a good performance benchmark. So if the creator has previous data on campaigns they've run with brands and they say, okay, well generally this is how many impressions we generate, this is how many clicks, this is how many this, then we can set a benchmark there.
Yeah.
But I think it's very, very difficult to do this kind of hybrid model. Definitely the performance only model in B2B is very, very difficult to do.
Yeah.
If we're working with trusted thought leaders and creators, if we're working with UGC creators, it's a very different game. But if we're working on B2B campaigns with B2B thought leaders, creators, and influencers, then performance models are going to be very, very hard to get over the line. So generally what we're doing at the moment is a mix of things. So B2B creator pricing is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
So you're paying essentially for the trust that someone's built over time, the authority they have in an industry, and these are things that are almost impossible to quantify, right?
Yeah.
Like someone who has 20 years experience working in a particular field in marketing, the value of each word that they say is incredibly high. They've been to thousands of conferences, made hundreds of LinkedIn posts, and they have this audience of people who look up to them and respect them. So if we're trying to pay $200, $300 for a LinkedIn post to them, it's not going to be worth anyone's time, right?
No.
But then how do we figure out how to pay for these creators? We need like a fair transaction, right, between the brand, the company, and then the creator.
Yeah.
So typically what we're doing is looking at a mix of factors. We're looking at a baseline based on impressions or engagement in the case of LinkedIn. So we're generating, generally this is how much we pay per impression. Mm-hmm. Then we look at a few other factors. So how good of a fit is the creator? So we typically characterize into 3 to 5 different tiers. So are they super, super niche or exactly what we're looking for? Are they maybe a little bit more broad than that? Are they kind of like general in industry? We can use an example of if we're working with an AI product, which is for growth marketers. Is the creator making super tactical niche content about growth on Meta?
Okay.
Or are they genuinely talking about marketing and they kind of like do some meta stuff and they talk about brands? Or are they like a content creator? Are they just making marketing content and they're talking about marketing as a whole, right? So these different tiers are probably going to have different values. So we put a multiplier on super niche, we put a lower multiplier on kind of like generic creator, and then we have a smaller multiplier on the broad creators there.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. The takeaway from this episode is that influencer marketing attribution isn't perfect, but tracking and surveys can help. LinkedIn leads for B2B, newsletters and YouTube are underrated, and the key is building genuine trust, not chasing vanity metrics. If you found this valuable, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next conversation with other experts in this space. And click the link in description to test Favikon for free, the tool Max himself uses to discover and vet right creators for his campaigns. See you in the next one.